April 10th, 1912, Southampton, England. As dawn broke over Southampton Harbor, thousands of people crowded the docks to witness history. Families embraced for what they believed would be a routine farewell. Workers rushed to load the final cargo, while reporters documented every moment. Towering above them stood the largest passenger ship ever built, RMS Titanic. Stretching 882 feet 9 inches, 269 meters in length, Titanic was considered the greatest engineering achievement of its time. Newspapers called her a wonder of the modern world, and many believed she was practically unsinkable. At exactly 12 noon on April 10, 1912, Titanic began her maiden voyage from Southampton to New York City. No one standing on that dock could have imagined that within 5 days, this magnificent ship would be resting on the floor of the North Atlantic Ocean. April 10th, 1912, Southampton docks. As the boarding gates opened, thousands of passengers stepped toward the Titanic. In first class, some of the world's wealthiest families arrived with elegant luggage and high expectations. In second class, teachers, merchants, and professionals prepared for a comfortable journey across the Atlantic. Meanwhile, in third class, hundreds of immigrants carried little more than hope. They were leaving everything behind, dreaming of a new life in America. No matter where they came from, no matter how much money they had, every soul on board shared the same destination. None of them knew they were walking into history. April 10th, 1912. Aboard RMS Titanic. Stepping inside the Titanic was like entering a floating palace. The magnificent grand staircase rose beneath a massive glass dome, glowing under elegant chandeliers. First-class passengers enjoyed luxurious suites, fine dining, a swimming pool, a Turkish bath, a gymnasium, and even electric elevators, comforts that few hotels in the world could match. Every detail reflected the ambition of a new century. To those on board, Titanic wasn't just a ship, it was the greatest achievement of modern engineering. No one believed this masterpiece could ever fail. April 11th to 13th, 1912, North Atlantic Ocean. For the next 3 days, life aboard the Titanic seemed almost perfect. Every morning, passengers woke to the endless blue Atlantic stretching to the horizon. First-class guests enjoyed elegant breakfasts, afternoon tea, and luxurious dinners served on fine china. Children laughed and played along the open decks, while musicians filled the air with beautiful melodies. Far below, engineers and stokers worked tirelessly, feeding coal into the giant boilers that powered the world's most famous ship. Day after day, Titanic sailed smoothly across the calm Atlantic. To everyone on board, the future looked bright. Sunday, April 14th, 1912, North Atlantic Ocean. By the morning of April 14th, Titanic had already received several wireless warnings from nearby ships. Each message reported the same danger: large icebergs drifting directly across the shipping route. The warnings arrived one after another. Some were delivered to the bridge, others never reached the captain in time, as the wireless operators were busy sending passengers personal messages to shore. The sea remained calm. The sky was perfectly clear. To everyone on board, it looked like another peaceful day. But beneath that quiet beauty, danger was waiting. Sunday, April 14th, 1912. The sun disappeared below the horizon, and the North Atlantic grew colder with every passing hour. The sea was unusually calm. There were no waves, no moon, only darkness stretching endlessly ahead. High above the deck, 2 lookouts scanned the black ocean with nothing but their eyes. Then, at exactly 11:40 p.m., a dark shape suddenly appeared in front of the ship. An enormous iceberg. "Iceberg, right ahead!" The warning bell rang 3 times. Within seconds, the bridge ordered the helm hard to starboard. The engines were reversed, but the Titanic was simply too large, and the iceberg was far too close. History was about to change forever. Sunday, April 14th, 1912, 11:40 p.m. The order came instantly. "Hard to starboard!" The massive ship slowly began to turn. For a brief moment, it seemed the Titanic might avoid the iceberg. But then, a long, scraping sound echoed through the night. Ice tore across the starboard side of the ship. Steel plates bent inward, rivets snapped. Below the waterline, several compartments were ripped open. Freezing Atlantic water rushed into the ship with unstoppable force. Most passengers felt only a slight vibration. Some barely noticed anything at all. But deep inside the Titanic, the countdown had already begun. Sunday, April 14th, 1912. Moments after the collision, freezing seawater poured into the forward compartments. Engineers rushed below deck, their faces filled with concern. Within minutes, they realized the terrifying truth. The damage was far worse than anyone had imagined. 6 watertight compartments were flooding. Titanic had been designed to stay afloat with 4 flooded compartments, but not 6. Chief designer Thomas Andrews studied the damage in silence. Then he delivered the heartbreaking verdict. The ship will sink. The greatest ocean liner ever built had less than 3 hours to live. Sunday, April 14th, 1912. As freezing water continued to pour into the ship, Captain Edward Smith stood silently on the bridge. Chief designer Thomas Andrews had finished his inspection. The damage was beyond repair. Titanic could remain afloat for only a short time. For a moment, the bridge fell completely silent. The unthinkable had become reality. The world's largest passenger ship was doomed. Captain Smith took a deep breath, then gave the order that would decide the fate of more than 2,000 people. Prepare the lifeboats.
12:25 a.m., April 15, 1912. The first lifeboats were ready. Captain Edward Smith gave the order that would define the night. Women and children first. Crew members moved quickly across the boat deck, urging passengers to put on their life jackets. But many refused to leave. The Titanic still looked safe. Its lights were glowing. The music still played. Some passengers believed the lifeboats were unnecessary. Others were afraid to step into a small wooden boat and disappear into the freezing darkness. No one knew that every empty seat in a lifeboat would soon become a heartbreaking mistake.
12:45 a.m. April 15, 1912. The first lifeboat slowly descended into the freezing Atlantic. It had room for 65 people, but only 28 were on board. Many passengers still believed the Titanic was safer than a small wooden boat floating in the middle of the ocean. Some refused to leave their husbands. Others refused to believe the ship could actually sink. As the lifeboat drifted away, the bright lights of the Titanic still glowed against the dark night sky. No one in that boat knew they were seeing the great ship alive for the very last time.
1:15 a.m., April 15, 1912. As fear slowly spread across the decks, 8 musicians gathered together. Their leader, Wallace Hartley, made a remarkable decision. Instead of running for safety, they began to play. Soft music drifted through the freezing night air. The melodies calmed frightened passengers. For a few precious moments, the panic faded. Parents comforted their children. Husbands held their wives. The music became a symbol of courage. Even as the Titanic slowly disappeared beneath the Atlantic, their performance would become one of the most unforgettable acts of bravery in history. 2:10 a.m., April 15, 1912. The bow of the Titanic sank deeper into the freezing Atlantic. The angle of the deck grew steeper with every passing minute. Passengers struggled to keep their balance. Some held tightly to the railings. Others prayed quietly, while families shared their final moments together. The ship's lights flickered once, then again. At 2:18 a.m., the lights went out completely. For a brief moment, the world's greatest ocean liner stood in total darkness. Only the stars remained above the silent Atlantic.
2:20 a.m., April 15, 1912. After more than 2 hours and 40 minutes of unimaginable struggle, the Titanic reached the end of her journey. The stern rose high above the freezing Atlantic. For a few heartbreaking seconds, the great ship stood almost upright against the night sky. Then, she disappeared beneath the surface. The ocean closed over her, and silence filled the darkness. Within moments, more than 1,500 people were left in the icy waters of the North Atlantic. The ship that had been called a miracle of modern engineering was gone forever. Dawn, April 15, 1912. The Titanic was gone. Only the lifeboats remained, floating silently across the freezing North Atlantic. The cries for help slowly faded into the cold morning air. Those who survived sat in complete silence. Some stared at the empty ocean. Others searched the darkness, hoping to find loved ones. Just before sunrise, a distant light appeared on the horizon. It was the RMS Carpathia, answering Titanic's desperate distress calls. The rescue ship arrived to save those who were still alive. By the end of the rescue, around 710 people had survived. More than 1,500 had lost their lives. The tragedy of the Titanic would never be forgotten. April 15, 1912. The world woke to shocking news. The unsinkable Titanic was gone. Newspapers across Europe and America carried the same heartbreaking headlines. The disaster changed maritime history forever. International safety laws were strengthened. Ships were required to carry enough lifeboats for everyone on board. Continuous radio watches became standard, and the North Atlantic Ice Patrol was created to monitor dangerous icebergs. More than a century has passed, yet the story of the Titanic continues to inspire books, films, documentaries, and generations of people around the world. It reminds us that no matter how advanced technology becomes, nature always deserves our respect, but her story will never sink. Thank you for watching.